So I just hope that we get there, like you said. Keep those fingers crossed.
Well, I'll be sure to text you incessantly throughout the fight just to see if you're going to answer me back.
That phone will be nowhere in sight, buddy. Nowhere in sight.
He's like,
hey, who you picking?
Silent.
Who you picking, man? I want to know who you picking.
Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Don't forget to download the ProBox TV app, the best way to experience not just Wednesday night fights, but all of your boxing news. Never miss a story. We have a full fall lineup. To help me break it down, Jimmy Smith in studio, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and ESPN boxing analyst Timothy Bradley. So here it is. We got Jaime Munguia versus Eric Bazignan. That is September 20th. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. That's September 21st. Nick Ball versus Ronnie Rios, October 5th. Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev. I'm crossing both fingers to make sure that fight happens. Tim Tszyu versus Bakram Murtazaliev. So great slate of fights. Chris, what are you most excited for and why?
I mean, the reason you have your fingers crossed. That's the one. That's the one we all care about. The Bivol Beterbiev fight, which has been pushed off so many times for multiple injuries and whatnot. It's still one of those fights where it's not necessarily snake bitten yet, but it seems like it's very far away, even though it's quite close. So that's really the one that I think the world is looking forward to. That's the one I'm looking forward to. It is a very strong schedule coming up, which is generally the case in the fall. We normally have a kind of a lull toward the end of August, the end of summer, and then it really starts to pick up in September. And September, October, November, we finish the year strong. So it seems like we have that kind of schedule once again. But man, for me, it's Bivol Beterbiev. I said when I watched this fight, I want to be locked in. I don't want anybody talking to me. I'm not looking at my phone. I want to watch that fight. I want to watch everything that both of those men are doing because this is one of the best matchups in recent memory. So I just hope that we get there, like you said. Keep those fingers crossed.
Well, I'll be sure to text you incessantly throughout the fight just to see if you're going to answer me back.
That phone will be nowhere in sight, buddy. Nowhere in sight.
He's like,
hey, who you picking?
Silent.
Who you picking, man? I want to know who you picking.
I've been going back and forth. I've always thought Bivol, and then I was kind of hesitant going backwards, and I was thinking Beterbiev. I'm back to Bivol.
Back to Bivol. Paulie, I got to ask you, it's not just the size of that fight. Of course, everyone wants to see Bivol versus Beterbiev. I see on this slate of fight cards, I see a lot of guys who are coming off good performances and losses. Jaime Munguia, Tim Tszyu. Who needs to rebound the most, in your opinion?
Well, I think Tim Tszyu has a big chance to sort of, kind of put himself back in position. He was sort of looked at as the guy at 154-pound division that was really ascending to begin with, and he was the guy who was looked at to be the ascending the most. And then he took that, ill-timed L through some of that controversy and whatnot. So I think he's the one with a lot to prove, and still may have the bit of a chip on his shoulder as well. And so I think he's got probably, I'd say, the most motivation. Munguia lost to Canelo, you can always say, that's the biggest star, made a lot of money, whatever. But Tszyu losing that fight really kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth because, he's a guy who kind of saved that show by accepting the opponent at the last minute, then got kind of screwed over with the doctor's decision in the corner as well. Then the decision was close, and he didn't get it. And then, he's all of a sudden he's on the outs looking in while everybody's kind of scheduling the 154-pound, making the 154-pound schedule all around them. He's kind of on the outs looking in, even with a Turkey Al-Sheikh situation. So I think he's going to have the biggest chip on his shoulder and is going to want to have a lot to prove. And I think he, rightfully will have that mentality. He's a big competitor. Obviously, we saw that he was willing to jump right back in with Virgil Ortiz, and he wasn't able to due to the injury still not being fully healed. So I think his mentality is showing, and I think it'll continue to show. And that's why he's one of the guys I look forward to returning in this really, really packed fall schedule that I really look forward to seeing.
Tim, it's not just about great fights. Got a lot of those on tap, but it's about stardom, which is kind of mercurial. Do you think the winner of Dmitry Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, has that breakout crossover star moment because of that fight? If not, who do you think has the best chance on this slate of fights to be that breakout star?
Man,
I asked tough questions.
Those are big, man. Those are some big words. Next breakout star, this, that. I mean, look, these guys are foreigners, man. When we talking about, USA, I don't know, man. I don't think, I think they will evolve and move in the pound for pound for sure. Move up in the pound for pound, but man, being that breakout star, that's hard to say. Even the guys on the undercard as well. Even all those guys you mentioned. Still, there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done, man. These guys need to stay more active. They're not active enough for me. However, I gotta ask you guys a question, man. Who was that guy? Who Sergio Martinez? You remember Sergio Martinez?
Of course.
Who did he
Maravilla.
fight when he had that knee injury, man? Who did he fight? Was it
Cotto.
Cotto?
Cotto.
Yeah, Cotto at the
Cotto,
Garden.
It
yeah.
was Cotto, man.
Yeah.
Just think
Bad.
about the history of boxing. All these guys that you've seen with those knee braces, and I forget.
Even Yuri Foreman, Tim.
There you go.
Against, against
Hey,
Cotto,
bro,
too.
I'm
Wow.
telling you
Oh,
right
you just
now.
made me think of something. The Cotto knee jinx.
Bro, I'm telling you, there's something to be said about that, man. It has to be, because the history, if you look at the history of boxing, all these guys that came in with these after these knee injuries, bro, they didn't do well after the knee injuries, man.
Tim.
You know, especially hard fights where everything's on the line, man, you know, and you're firing at all cylinders, man, and your knee give out on you. You know, so like this better be a Bivol fight just got real interesting, man, because I was thinking Bivol at first, and then I went back, I watched the film, and I'm like, well, better be if he can land that right hand. He can end it with one shot over that jab. I know he can. You know, he has a way of landing his shot, but then now I'm thinking about the knee. I'm like, oh, man, yeah, it's never good.
And which knee is it?
I don't know which knee. You know, that
Yeah.
I'm not sure
If
which
it's
knee
the
it
right
is.
knee, if it's the right knee, that's the one you got to carry the weight to throw that right hand over there, right?
Yeah,
Tim,
yeah.
It's interesting stuff, you know.
Tim, that's a great point. I decided not to wear my knee brace in the Spence fight because I had a knee injury going into the fight. Didn't want anybody talking about it. And we all know how that fight went. I had no legs. I couldn't move in that fight. And I needed legs against him. I had
There you
surgery
go.
3 days after that fight. Knees are a big deal, especially for guys who are movers. Sergio was
Yeah.
a mover. I was a mover. Yuri Foreman, a mover. All those are a problem. Better be though, not much of a mover. So
He's not.
he might not play as much a part, but listen, at this level, every percentage point, every 0.0001% matters.
Chris, he's not a mover, but do you think that the knee injury could affect the leverage he gets on his punches?
Yeah.
1,000%, absolutely. It could affect
Yes.
him in many ways. It could affect his defense, his offense, his
It's
reactions,
balance.
everything. Balance, absolutely.
Guys, it affects your road work too. You know,
Yes.
a lot of guys don't
Conditioning,
have the gas. They
Great, great point. Absolutely.
Can't
Conditioning.
run.
You got to start running like an old man.
Well, I mean, you don't. I think you can get conditioning. It's just not. You get cardio, not for just running. I mean,
Yeah,
you
the
can
Klitschko's
ride a bike,
didn't run at all. They
swim. I
swam.
mean, there's so many
Yeah.
different ways of getting cardio in nowadays.
Swimming, elliptical, all
So-
those things.
But it's just interesting. It's just interesting, guys, because I'm just saying that, like, I know who I'm gonna pick because of that knee injury, man. I'm gonna go with Bivol. I think Bivol is gonna have the ability to outbox him. I think that knee can slow him down a bit. But still, all he has to do is land one. If he can land one,
Guy can
that
punch.
could be it. That can be it.
One with the leverage though behind the shot. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The knee injury may not be able to let you leverage the shot.
Well,
Yeah.
I know right now that our own J-Rod is watching this right now intently, and he's taking notes. He's picking out his horrible jacket, and I think the opinion of Timothy Bradley will mean something when we pick the odds. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We have a great fall slate. We'll be breaking them down piece by piece. Don't forget to download the ProBox TV app and never miss out on your boxing news.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, September 11th. Rising Guatemalan star Lester Martinez puts his O on the line against fellow undefeated warrior Joe Sean Time James. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.